Everyone, everyone. All right, Shalom, Shalom, Kohalayim, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Wahara Kakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone, who rule well over the flock of Israel. Shalom and salutations. You came out here, preaching the words of truth and sincerity. Shalom to all the elect. Akim, Aqua, scattered Israelites. Shalom. Let's just get this everything set up in the back. So this is an old video that I did that I noticed that I didn't have the audio on. So I'm just gonna go through it through the spirit of Yahweh Shemel Shah and see if I could pick up any of the good information that I had out there. Um, and the video title is called The Branding, Marking, and Physical Signs of Servitude from Ancient Greece Until Now. And there was a few articles I brought out. I had no idea the audio was out. So here we go. I'm going to just go over it again. So this article says slavery in the early Roman Empire. It says if you were the galley slave, Judah Ben Hur, could you have saved the Roman admiral in the shipwreck? That's just the name of the article. Let me see if I can get the quality better. Okay. So anyway, in the article, it goes into the slave market. It says the slave market, this picture right here, it's called the slave market. It says published in 1891. I'm just going to skip around. The people of the empire were divided into three main categories: Roman citizens, civis, free non-citizens, peregrinus, or slave service, mancipium, res mortalis. So you got three classifications of people back in ancient Rome: Roman citizens, free non-citizens, and slaves. It says living somewhere was not enough to make you a citizen of that place. It was the status of your parents that determined unless the state decided to grant you citizenship. All right. So this is where you get the word civic from, or civil, being an actual citizen. And service is the Latin word for a slave, to serve, obviously. So this article goes into how branding played a major role into identifying the identification. When you go into the word brand, right, and just a simple Google definition, you'll see that a brand is something that marks, even to this day, today's definition, a type of product manufactured by a particular company under a particular name. So if you got a shirt on and it got a horse on it, man on a horse on it, you're gonna say that's Polo because you saw the brand. Now the brand gonna be a little tiny little symbol, but the brand gonna identify what kind of who makes that shirt. It says a type of product manufactured by a particular company under a particular name. So it was no different. Now, the second definition of brand, right under that, is an identifying mark burned on livestock, formerly criminals, or slaves with a branding iron. An identifying mark or identification, a marker. So this is what ties in the words mark and brand together. All right, identification. It's called the RFID, radio frequency identification, because as you can see, we're coming to a place where it's a cashless society. We moving steadily approaching a time where you're not going to be able to use cash, right? Even that fake video that went out where brothers basically corrected and exposed to be untrue. But as Jake was saying, now there was a riot. He used footage of that little top. I forget this guy's name. He went in New York City for like a free raffle, and all the teenagers came out and started wilding out. He used that footage to say that they're now protesting in front of Whole Foods because they're forcing you to use you can't use cash anymore. So the people's protesting, but that ended up being untrue. But yet and still, as you can see, the branding, all right, of criminals or slaves from the ancient world is going to return in a big way. Thus save the Bible. And the ways returning is by a new form of identification, which is going to be accessible by the way of what you call it, a needle, all right, an incision. that goes under, through your dermis, right, or epidermis, under your skin, subdermal, and it's going to implant that device that allows you to buy a cell, but it's going to be a brand. Once again, a brand, two things, is either a label, right, or the make. If you look at your car, in the front of the car, the back of the car, they're always going to put the make. They say the make. Well, make is a different word for brand because it tells you who makes that car, right? The make and the model, who makes the car. Your shirt has brands on it. You look at the right behind your neck. You're right behind your neck. There's a brand, right? And as you can see in the ancient world, brands were used. It says living somewhere was not enough to make you a citizen of that place. It was the status of your parents that determined unless the state decided to grant you citizenship. Citizens had many well-defined rights not granted to aborigines. Slaves had no rights at all. So the idea is that when you exhibit this brand or show this brand, similar to you having a VIP pass, you're going to be able to have privileges that most people won't have. And that's why that brand in Revelation 13 tells you is tied into the buying and selling, right? And that no man might buy or sell, say that he had the mark, meaning you don't have the privileges. Because you are no longer a part of the new status of citizenship, which is determined by the state, right? By bringing out the new form of identification. Just like if you didn't upgrade to during the time, before they had whatever IDs and state IDs and driver's license. Before then, they probably had some type of paperwork or something. So that at that point in time, you had to upgrade to the new form of ID and the new forms of things and new ways of life. There's always an upgrading, but it's basically the same old thing revamped, rewashed, it's remanufactured. The same old branding process as of old. It says citizens have many well-defined rights granted to the not granted to the aborigines. So there's classes and levels. And if you watch that movie In Time, it shows you based upon how much time people had on their ID, which was a digital ID, bio ID, based upon how much time they were granted different rights that others weren't. So this is the time we coming in. It's real dystopian, right? It's real future tech, but it's all ancient statuses that are allowed based upon how you ID yourself. It says number and status of slaves. Slavery was considered normal in virtually all cultures in ancient times, and the Romans were no exception. The portion of the population that was enslaved varied across in the empire, with an estimated 15% empire-wide. Overall, perhaps one household in seven owned slaves, but rates of ownership were much higher in Italy and Sicily, right? Why? Because that's where Jake was. A lot of Jakes from Italy, southern Italy, Sicily, especially. Look at the Sicilian. I think it's the Sicily flag, but that's where majority of the American mob comes from. Sicily. You have to trace your family line back to Sicily, where the Moors conquered Sicily. All right, a lot of empires. Sicily is very close. The bottom tip of Italy is very close to Africa, right? And you hear about the Berbers. You hear about different the Moors conquering Portugal and Spain, and how what's his name? Napoleon would say everything south of these mountain ranges, which is in the north of Spain. He said everything south of it is black. So there was we known to take over an ownership of that part of the world, southern Italy. But it goes on in those regions, perhaps as high as 30% were slaves during the early empire. So slavery was big, was rampant, especially in Rome, right? And that's how kingdoms is built. People have this fallacy, this belief that a slave class cannot exist or should not exist. But to the contrary, in order for a kingdom to be really established, it needs a slave class. It needs a subordinate class of people to be able to build. I think this, the Lord said the poor will always be amongst us. All right, Revelations 13 and 16, quoted it earlier. And it's going into that mark. So you don't be confused about these words. A mark, a brand, All right, they're all going back to the same thing, which is an identifying mark. It says burned in livestock, formerly criminals or slaves, with the branding iron. So that was the ancient world technology of a mark. Granted, there was no, if they had RFID at the time of the Roman Empire, they would have used it. As a matter of fact, I believe the precursor to what's the New World Order, which was World War II, Nazi Germany, right? The labeling of citizens that went by the name of Jewish or whatnot, right? Which a lot of that history is clouded. We're not going to get into that, but IBM was one of those companies that were branding and marking some of those people that was on them camps and whatnot. Why? Because they had to brand them. That's the beginning of creating a slave, is to brand them, show their significance, um, and who they belong to. Show shows ownership. All right, when you put a label on something, it shows ownership. All right, when you put there's a word called trademark. All right, and a trademark is defined as a symbol, word, or words legally registered or established by use as representing a company or product. So you're representing a product when you have that MOTB inside you. You're representing the company of the New World Order, the WF's New World Order, where you will own nothing and be happy. And that's the idea. You won't be able to buy or sell. So it says here in the see if I grab the KJV, and he calls of all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. All right. And so that's what we're going into. So the idea now in the ancient world, it used to be that only the slaves and the warriors or criminals, slaves, criminals, or certain warriors, certain generals, certain branches of the different forces of the empire would also get branded to show servitude, or show what legion they belong to. Well, in this case scenario, coming around the corner, real fastly approaching, you're gonna have all cause of all, both small and great, rich and poor. So all these American citizens, you pick one, look around, they all gonna have to have and receive this mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. The technology today allows you to understand how a mark could be placed in your foreheads. All you gotta do is type in Neuralink trials, human trials, and you'll see right now how close we are. Not just Neuralink, Elon Musk company, but many various companies is close to allowing people to walk again who are crippled, or allowing people to write down things just on thinking it with their brain waves. They could they're now able to show pictures of what people are thinking. All right, so that technology is very much here, and it wasn't here at the time of John the Baptist, John the Revelator writing these things. All right, so we have even a better understanding, an idea of what exactly he saw, because we living in it. People say the Bible days, but we in them. All right. So it says in their foreheads. So that's why you have this technology that exists, brain interface chips and neural chips and things like that. So we in that time. It's not a distant future. It's right here. Right. As of last week, they're bringing out information on Neuralink, and I like to go into the BL. Well, this is the commentary section where it gives you a little insight about the mark. Let me see if I can find it. All right, let me see if I can find something. I can see them. All right, give me 1 second. So it says over here on this right side, it says about the charagma. It says John describes how the entire number of worshippers of the beast, who recognize one another by a mark which certifies that they belong to the beast, hinder the intercourse required even in business with respect to their daily life of saints who have not received that mark of the beast. So idea is that these people will be hindered in their daily lives. How? Because you won't be able to buy or sell without it. All right. Over here it says the power that we have read that of the sealing of the servants of Yahweh in their foreheads, Revelation 7:3. We shall hear of it again, Revelation 22:4. The power of evil also has its mark or stamp. As slaves receive the brand or mark in their flesh, betokening to whom they belong. So it all goes back to the idea of ancient world marking, branding, servitude, physical signs of servitude from the ancient world until now. It always was a brand or a mark that signified who you belonged to. All right. It was a token, a betokening, they say, a symbol. All right. A mark or a brand. It says St. Paul spoke of such marks. Right. Let's keep going. Keep going. Again, this was a video I did with it had no audio in it. So I'm just going back to go over it again. It says here, let me read this last section. In the same way, the subtle false prophet, the arbiter of the world power, seeks to impress, which the word impress means make something. Let me get that word impress real quick, because you have the word impressionable or impression. That also goes into mark, impress. So impress means make someone feel admiration and respect. But the second definition is the one I'm looking for. Make a mark or design on an object using a stamp or seal to imprint, an act of making an impression or mark. So you're impressed. All right. They'll be impressed or marked. All right. Or branded. It says seeks to impress a mark on all on the penalty of complete social exclusion. And that's what, brothers, we keep bringing up is that right now, you feel in a slight social exclusion when you amongst the body. You don't want to be out here amongst these people for the most part. You try to stay away from large crowds. You not understand that majority of people, even though they're people, they're spiritually dead and they act like heathens. They are a heathen impression. All right, they've been impressed with heathenism and don't repent, don't see it other way. So you're already dealing with a form of social exclusion. How much more when that snake venom came out, you had to deal with a form of social exclusion because you didn't go ahead and jump on the bandwagon like everybody else. There's rewards for bandwagoning, just like there's rewards for bowing down to Caesar or bowing down to Baal. There's left hand side rewards to selling your soul, but the opposite, meaning walking that straight gate, provided the Lord give you the spirit to keep you in that day, right, from the hour of temptation, you'll deal with complete social exclusion, which means you're gonna have to get your food through the miracles that the Lord's gonna allow us. He's gonna bestow upon us. You're gonna have to, many of us gonna be as pilgrims in that day. So the surety that comes with taking that MOTB, you're not gonna have. So that's dealing with faith. Now you're gonna be completely in the realm of faith, and it's not gonna last long, but it is gonna happen. As you can see, that MOTB is to identify who isn't um isn't bowing down to the order of Satan, isn't bowing down to the pressure of Satan and bowing out. And once you don't have that mark, you're gonna deal with that penalty of complete social exclusion. So it says it is utterly unnecessary to take this brand of evil literally, but that's where they're wrong. See, that's where these people are wrong. And a lot of these books or these commentary sections was written in the 70s and 60s. This technology still didn't exist as it did. Some of them is written in the 1800s, some of these commentary sections, so it wasn't given under them. Once again, the Lord has chosen foolish things to confound the wise. That's us who didn't go to theology school and didn't learn under uh, um, the world's pastors and teachers. We learned under men on the street corners who the Lord raised up, prophets. So that seal we understood as spiritual. Boom, boom, boom. That's the word impress right here. Make a marker design using the stamp to imprint. That's all this is coming to. It's all coming full circle home. Where, let me see. Yep, social exclusion. Where, if you do not take that brand, you'll be socially excluded. All right. Now, let's see if we got any more. All right. Let's see if I find anything else, man. All right. So this is Galatians 6:17. This is what they quoted. As if to say that the mark is only going to be spiritual, where Paul said that right here. He says, let me get in there, KJ. From henceforth, let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Yahushua. Right. And so he's talking about how it should be evident based upon how I look, and the type of anguish and even scars physical that I've been through. You can see I bear the marks of Yahushua on my body. Why is he talking about the marks of Yahushua? Because the brand that we have, as opposed to the brand of Satan, is that we go through the persecution and the afflictions, right? Mentally, brothers bear the marks of Yahushua because we have a uprightness about us. We have a spirit of steadfastness about us. All right, we got a hard exterior and hard edge about us. We still bearing the marks of Yahushua upon our body. Even so, further, the martyrs will definitely be bearing the marks of Yahushua. And even men, Paul, Peter, they went through scourgings and whippings and beatings. This was a different time in which, teaching the words of the Lord will get you hurt. You go into that word mark, and in Galatians 6:17, it says, stizo, a mark incised or punched, scar of service, a scar of service. So again, not just slaves was getting marked and branded back in the ancient world. It was also common for men to walk around with brands on them who are part of legions, who are generals, who are part of certain armed forces of the ancient world. Soldiers, centurions, and so forth were walking around branded and marked. Paul is taking on that to make the point. He's taking from that understanding to make the point. I also have marks as a soldier. I have marks too. I have scars too. Look what I've been through: beaten, right, and bruised for Yahushua's sake. All right. So it says here, in the Elicots, it says the marks. It says the stigmata, which is the Greek word for a mark, right? And that's where you get the word stigma from. A stigma is another word tied into all of this, which again comes from the Greek. Stigma means a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. So it's like a shameful thing about somebody, and it sticks with them. But it says, going down in Christian tradition, marks corresponding to those left on Yahushua's body by the crucifixion. So Yahushua was left with a stigmata, so to speak, in his feet and in his hands. All right. Stigmata goes back to the word a mark in the Greek, a mark made by a pointed instrument, a dot, right? Because you get stuck with a pointed instrument and then leave that stick, stuck hole in you. You were now impressed. And this is going into this technology that we get around today. What can impress you and stick you and leave a mark on you that will not allow you to buy or sell. It has to be an instrument that has a chip in it, because you see the wave of technology is everything is contactless. You take your credit card out with the chip on it, and then you lay it on top of the sensor. It reads it RFID style, and then you put it back in your wallet, and you've officially paid. You don't have to swipe no more. You have to insert the chip. It's close near field communication technology. And there's a receiver on one side, and then there's the signal on the other side, which lays in your body this time. And anything you walk up against or brush up against, or basically anything that has a sensor on it, it could be miles away with an antenna attached to it, can read you and can locate you, and can help you with your ID or your purchases. This is why it will be complete social exclusion for you not to have that in that day, which that's what we have to deal with. This is a part of our affliction. This is really when the pressure turns up, when it starts getting hot in the kitchen. That snake venom that they put out 3 years ago, that was a precursor. You saw what happened to people who didn't take the snake venom. You saw what happened to people who said, I don't want to do this, or this is crazy, or I need more time to think about it. They completely outlawed you. There's videos on celebrities saying we need to round them up and castrate these people who don't take the snake venom. All right. They was really trying to defame you. There was a stigmata there still is a stigmata. All right. Which is stigma is a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality of person. Non-jabbers, for instance, have stigmatas that were crazy, lunatic, conspiracy theorists, so forth and so on. Well, so do people who believe in the scriptures, especially ones that teach that the MOTBs, the CHIP, us. So we already going through it, right? It says the stigmata, or marks inflicted with branding irons, such as those which show that a slave is attached to a particular temple or to the service of some particular deity. And that goes back to temple prostitution. Temple prostitution was people that would lay and stay in the temple for their deity. They would have sex with various men, women. I'm sure back then children was not excluded, and it will be for the service of the deity. So in any temple, Ephesus, there was prostitutes in there. And that's why the scripture talk about male, outlaw male prostitute. Would it sound like male prostitute or male sleeping around, which is really going into temple prostitution, right? It says branding was applied in some other cases. All right. But especially to temple slaves, those with which the Galatians were most familiar would be engaged in the worship of Sybil. There does not seem to be evidence to connect the passage directly to the incident of stigmata. Let's keep going. All right, so we just grabbing up little points here and there from commentary. The apostles has done. He will not daily with these vexations attacks upon himself and his authority anymore. He dismisses them with the appeal which ought to be final. He points to the scars of wounds which he had received in his master's service. The branding irons of Yahushua, he says, have imprinted these upon me. They show that I, like the slaves of a heathen temple, am devoted and consecrated to his service. These are my credentials, and I shall produce no others. My assailants must leave me in peace. And that's the idea. You already showing the marks of your service to Yahushua. You already showing the marks of your allegiance to Yahweh Shem Yahushua, in that you've been out. Paul had been beaten. Paul had been whipped. Paul has been bruised, had physical marks. We ourselves have more spiritual marks, right? We've been persecuted spiritually. We've been fighting these demons. We've been fighting to stay in the truth. That's a fight in itself. You get scarred and marked spiritually, right? Scriptures say the sword, the scriptures is a two-edged sword, cutting asunder. So and we understand iron sharpen iron. We've been sharpened, cut up, right? The Lord said, those who believe as a part of my vine, basically you'll be not purged, but there'll be a process in which you'll be changed, right? And you know, even in plants in that life was Yahweh shot. Let me see if I can find the scripture. John 15. So John 15, real quick. And 1, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. Every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it. So that purging process is like a severe correction process. Even when you purging something, it says the process of taking away in order to be clean. That's a violent process at times, man, especially if you very dirty and your mind is dirty and your ways and your habits is unclean. That purging process, when the Lord starts to deal with you to make you clean, it might involve you suffering in many various forms and fashions. It says the act of getting rid of something unwanted, harmful, or evil. That's the purge. And Yahweh said, every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Now you are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. So that's it. We getting cleaned up, but that cleanup process, sometimes it feels like hell. It feels like going through this hell. Where are we now? Hell. We are in servitude to Yahweh Shah, who is not here with us only in spirit and in word, but the rest of the people don't understand that. So that leaves us afflicted, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked, vexed with the evil that continually goes on in this society, vexed with their pushing of the MOTD and their gradualism tactics. We vexed with pushing of the immorality. Not to point anything out specifically, but all the immorality going on. We vexed with the pollution that we gotta eat and drink and breathe. The scriptures talk about those that cry, and that's put a mark on them. Speaking of mark, a mark of exemption in Ezekiel 9, put a mark on those that sigh and cry for the abominations done. So we sighing and crying. We are completely upset and angry at the rulership of the elite Edomites, who are the wicked and the devils of the earth. And we speaking out upon it. We speaking out upon all the lies that's being covered up, like iconoclasm, so-called white images of the Lord and angels and God. All right. Them denying us who we are, right? And stigmatizing those that believe on the scriptures, those that call themselves Hebrew Israelites, making all type of series and sending God like vocab. We see it, and it puts us in a austere minded situation. Now we see what Yahweh had to deal with. We see 2/3 of our own people ignorant as hell, wicked, loving evil and wickedness. And so, yeah, we're gonna continue, through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahshua, as long as he keeps that spirit on us to serve the right master. All right, the Father and the Son. Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah. Let's see what else we got in here. Let me see how I get back into the article. All right. All right, bear with me. All right, so this is more commentary on Galatians 6 and 17. And it says here, I am the one who branded on my body the flesh marks of Yahushua. It says, being such as here describes himself, he had claim upon his brethren to be spared unnecessary annoyance. The Greek word stigma here denotes a mark on the flesh, either by puncture, its proper sense, the hot, sharp instrument, very often hot needles. And then it goes into the charagma. So the idea of it just being some type of spiritual thing in every instance, similar to Ezekiel 9 and 4, well, that's wrong. The stigma always goes back to and denotes a physical mark on your flesh. It says, or similarly, by simply branding without puncture. And that's the ancient world form of branding, which I'll read on. It served sometimes as a mark of permanent ownership, as upon horses or cattle. So the idea is you are owned with this Revelation 13:16 mark. You are owned, and there's a physical branding which is tied into the money structure, the new or the new payment system, which you can't be in finance, you can't be in commerce, you can't be in trade and not hear about the coming digital currencies. I think Brazil's digital currency just went live. It's another place in Africa, country that took that their digital. I think Nigeria, their digital currency just went live. Another trial run of Africa has crypto, where all you gotta do is scan your iris to get free crypto and be able to spend. And this is in third world country Africa. So when it said about buy and sell slaves free, and you know free and slaves, anybody who's a part of this new system will have to be hipped in order to get the luxuries that come with it. Once again, when you are punctured and branded, there come certain luxuries that you're gonna have. All right. And we don't consider those luxuries because we understand that the Heavenly Father has deemed it that if you take that MOTB, you will be burned up, you will be destroyed. But in that moments of time before the Lord destroys this place, these people who have this MOTB and they get it, that incision, and they get that ID and that device in them in their hand and their forehead, these people will exhibit certain we get to enjoy certain luxuries that the rest of the people that didn't conform don't get to enjoy, mainly buying and selling, and whatever 15-minute city ideas that Esau comes up with. It says, in respect to slaves, it was not considered humane to brand them except for punishment. And again, if the technology existed back then, they would have just marked them with the C hip. If the Romans had technology in the size of a grain of rice to track people, they would have done it that way. And they are doing it that way because these are the modern day Romans back again. America is a second-legged arm of the Roman Empire. All right. It says, in respect to slaves, it was not considered humane to brand them except for punishment or as security in particular cases against running away. Hence, branding designated a scoundrel or a runaway slave. All right. Sometimes they put the R even in American slavery. Here in USA, 1500s to 1800s, they will brand the slaves with an R, stand for runaway, if they did do that. All right. So this is just the history that you understanding ancient world history involving slaves. You always knew that slaves were identified. All right. Branded. A branded deserter. A runaway slave. All right. It says, writing 300 years later, states that in Roman army, raw recruits had to be proved fit for service before they were allowed to have the tattoo put upon them. And you could see a lot of people in the army, especially, that's where they were the ones getting tatted a long time ago, long before it became popular for a high schooler or college recruit to get tatted up, or a basketball player. Long before that phase came around, Iversons and all this tatted, everybody tatted up. Long before it was cool, the only people that was really doing it were sailors, all right, and military men, because it goes back to the old fashioned, ancient world's physical sign of servitude and a brand. What branch do you belong to? You belong to the army? Okay, you get that army symbol on your arm. This is ancient world uh, scenarios. It says in the Roman army, raw recruits had to be proved fit for service before they were allowed to have the tattoo put upon them. After dual trial, they were puncturis and cute punctus militis scripti et matriculus inserti. All right, you gotta look that one up. All right, but you can see, you can see basically it means puncture, military, writing, scripty is writing, matriculus, I forget that, inserti, insert. So they were punctured and written on. That tattoo was inserted on them after the trial to see if they was worthy. It says, but this testimony does not establish the fact of such usage prevailing in the Roman army in St. Paul's time, though it is quite supposable that then, as now, soldiers might sometimes tattoo on their arm and hand the name of our favorite general. Instances are cited of consecration to a particular god being signalized by stigma, meaning they also put their gods on their arms, tattoo their gods on their arms. Herodotus, writing 500 years before, says a certain temple of Heracles on the Egyptian coast, that if a servant belonging to any man whatever took sanctuary in it and put upon himself sacred stigmata, giving himself to the god, no one could touch him. In 3 Maccabees 2:29, mention is made of a mark of Dionysus. A mark of Dionysus, ivy leaf being, by means of fire, put upon the body of Jews in Egypt in the time of Ptolemy Philopator. But this would seem to have been intended rather by barbers in indignity, because especially abhorrent to their religious feelings, than an actual consecration of them to Dionysus as his slaves. So they're saying that basically they was forced as exiles to take this mark of Dionysus, which there was imprint an ivy leaf on you, symbolizing Dionysus. All right, so this is where the idea of tattoos and all of that, the markings, all goes back to ancient world servitude. Who is your brand? What brand were you? Who is your master? Who is your leader? Who are your generals? Yeah, and so that same technology is going to be used today, just to scan your hand. Who do you belong to? Scan here. If you belong here, you're going to be scanned in, so to speak. All right, let's see here. All right, read that part. All right. I think that a few of them go into that whole Dionysus in 3 Maccabees. Um, I'm just going through the commentary real quick. So it's basically all those that are gonna, succumb to Esau's order is gonna take that mark. This says for the charagma of the worshippers of the beast is to mark them as such and to render them distinguishable as of the same nature, but in itself by no means contains an admonition of a service of the beast to which they are bound. So you're bound now. Once you take that mark, you're bound and you're distinguishable to the beast as a worshiper of the beast. Yeah. And at the time they was writing this, they didn't really know. They didn't really know You see, it was written in 1873. This man died in 1873. Some of these commentary, Meyer commentary, he died in 1873. He ain't possibly gonna know. And this is the time that they knew better only because slavery was an outlaw yet. So they was raised in the midst of slavery. They understood markings on the flesh. They understood that. They didn't have this PC culture. So they was easily able to say, yeah, slaves were marked, and that's what the mark will be. And ultimately everybody will be made in the position of slaves because they'll all have to be forced to take this mark that the beast system is going to mandate, leaving you the choice of not taking it, but you'll be exiled or, excommunicated from your daily life, man, because you won't be able to buy or sell. It'll impair you. All right. And this section says John describes how the entire number of worshippers of the beast who recognize one another by a mark which certifies that they belong to the beast. So that's your new form of valid citizenship, the only form of citizenship that will be accepted. You will not be able to say anymore, well, I'm an American because I deserve the right to, and nope, the Constitution upholds that I do not have to. They ain't gonna hear that. The WEF is coming straight for you. The elites have decided, right? Go back to the interview with Aaron Russo and Alex Jones, where he tells you that John Rockefeller years ago told him that they're gonna force everybody to take a MOTB incision, C-hip, all right, where it's gonna enslave them to a system. And if they fight against it or ever try to rebel against that system, they just disconnect their C-hip. They disconnect it virtually, digitally. And so even though it's embedded in you, you're still not going to be able to use it because you caused a scene or you did some type of rebellious act. Really, this is going to bring in that newer order, that elite wet dream that they've been waiting for, to have everybody in subjection. It says hinder the intercourse required in business with respect to their daily life of saints who have not received the mark of the beast. So we got to understand, this is where we come in. If you are a true believer of Yahweh Shemi Hashar, and the Lord gives you the spirit and keeps you in that day, and you do not take the MOTB, you're just going to have to go through a period where the Lord, all your resources and all your everything you rely on is going to be that of what Yahweh Shemi Hashar provides for you. You're going to have to bleed at. Your intercourse is going to be hindered, meaning, your daily activity life, your daily life, your business is going to be, all these people clouting or toting about their business. I got, generation web, I done built side businesses. What is your side businesses going to do for you in the day when, if you do not take the mark, what you going to be out here doing? You're going to have the side of your side business. And even that side business is going to be eradicated because people are not going to be able to buy from you no more. You ain't got nowhere for the money to go. You see? So in respect to daily life and business, everything is going to be hindered for the saints who have not received the mark of the beast. This is clearly why we are not in the same mentality as everybody else. Clearly. This is clearly why we can't just get going on together. We can't act like, let's start talking about the brother, shout out to the brother Barack Obama in GMS New York main camp. He said, all of these, the world about the end, and these niggas want to talk about is great, lawful in the scriptures. That's the last video, one of the last videos put up with by Netta. It's great legal. Here it is. You about to be in the dire straits out here. If you do not belong to the beast and get that mark, you about to be in dire straits. If you do not have that verified ID implanted in you to buy and sell with, you about to be in dire straits. All your business, it says, with respect of daily life, shall be hindered for all the saints who have not received the mark. So you have no choice but to believe in Yahweh Shemi Hashar if you do not receive that mark. Because it's going to be a time of a trial, right? Just like we just read, they tried The army, they tried the new recruits before they were allowed to tattoo themselves with their new positions and their new loyalty to their new um service under their generals. Before they were allowed to tat that affiliation on them, they had to be tried. So the Lord is going to try us in the times, in the sense that we will not be able to conduct business, and our lives will be hindered for not receiving that mark. That's going to be the trial period, and you can see it clearly. And for the ones that do take it, there is no trial period. You already tapped out. You have already sold your soul over. You have now been, you belong. All right. You are marked with the beast. You have the brand of evil on you now. And so there's nothing you can do except for wait out your destruction. All right. Right. It says, in the same way, the subtle false prophet, the arbiter of the world power, seeks to impress a mark on all on the penalty of complete social exclusion. And I'm glad that they put that there, because that's, a lot of times we go into what the mark is, but we don't always go, what does it mean for you? For those that don't take it, it means complete social exclusion, which you should already be feeling a variance of that right now, being that you're watching these videos, being that you're not entertained with everything that everybody else is entertained with. You'd rather, on the contrary, you'd rather do things that are edifying to the flock and feeding the sheep and building up the building of Yahweh by Shem Yahushua. You more interested in that. So you already feel some type of social exclusion going on. How much more when that time comes? This is stigmata around the world pictures, and you can see it here, or type it in yourself, and you'll see men getting branded in the ancient world. He got the ancient world tunic on. I forget what they call that. But he's branded, he's marking this guy in his flesh, probably a slave, or could be a new recruit. All right, more slaves bearing water, pitching water with tats on them. And as you can see, they're completely naked, which was a normal custom in ancient Greece. It says the role of slavery in ancient Greece. They got all these brands on them, on their flesh. Types of slaves and slave in ancient Rome. So you can see the story of Cytheris, Roman world, life in the Roman world of Nero and St. Paul. This is slavery in ancient Rome, journey to freedom. So all of these slaves have certain things in common. They be branded. All right. It says here, the idea, hold on, unjustly resist the acknowledgement. This says that the idea contains an allusion to the heathen custom of branding slaves and soldiers, and thus of designating that they become the same master. They belong to the same master. So you got 100 different men. With that brand, you designate that they belong to the same master. You designate that with the brand. And that C hip is the brand that the beast, has designated for all small and great to take. All right. It says the worshipers of the beast is to mark them as such and to render them distinguishable as of the same nature, but in itself no means contains, right? Distinguish them. How will you be distinguished in the very near future? By this mark. By this mark. That goes all the way to ancient world. And the scriptures tell us about the all. If a man wanted to be a slave, a perpetual slave to his master, who is another Israelite, you could be a slave as long as you would have to take your ear to the doorpost and drill it all through it, piercing you, keeping in line with that piercing or that physical symbol that designates you being a slave. And you would have that all driven through your ear, which will render you a slave perpetually. And you got I understand the idea that some want to be slaves, or else it would never had that in the scripture. Some prefer to be slaves. Not every Jake Israelite out here that you see, that you come across, wants to be free or wants to belong, deny the powers that be. Guess what? Guess what this market is going to come with? More than likely, it's going to come with some form of quick money. It's going to be a quick money scheme, just like all the rest of the schemes in this world. You got quick money loans. You got what they said in the Good Times intro. Shucking and jiving, good times, easy credit ripoffs. Jake is known to be these elites, mainly Amalek, they prey on you with these ripoffs, these credit ripoffs. So they'll sell you a card with $2,000 of a credit limit on it, but the interest rate is 40%. So next thing you know, for $2,000, you done spent 4,000. You done spent 7,000. All right. You took out a mortgage for a $300,000 mortgage on your 30-year lease, and now you paying back by the end of it all. You paying back 900,000 on 300,000 of cash. So this is what it's going to come with. It's going to come with some money, because it's a digital currency that they're making up. Once again, it's made up. It's not backed by anything. It's made up. We're just going to alter it from physical money to a digital now. And we'll add it to your chip when you get it. Matter of fact, we're going to give you UBI. You'll get a stipend of $2,000 a month. Whether you want to work or not, it's going to be your choice. And because the scripture said, the love of money is the root of all evil, here it goes. They're going to go ahead. They're going to take it, and they're going to decidedly be destroyed for it, because they didn't know what it was attached to. It's attached to your destruction when you go into Revelation 14 chapter. You become a worshiper of the beast instead of a worshiper of Yahweh Shem Yahshua. He's a jealous power. He ain't going to have it. All right. So that's the idea of them. Own nothing to be happy. They give you little stipends, but you're going to be renting. Everything is on the rent. You won't own any land anymore. Complete ownership is given into the beast at that time. So the way you have it now, where you have a mortgage and all of this, and you have your land, and you so-called could build on your land and do all of these things, you ain't gonna have it like that no more. Not in this new beast system. They coming for it all. The elites want it all. All right, let's see here. Some of this commentary ain't worth reading, by the way. All right, the second beast has carried on its designs a method whereby men should be deceived to worship the former beast in the new shape or likeness made for it, right? Meaning that this new beast is after the formitude of the old beast. The second beast is after the formitude of the first, both being world dominant power structures of Esau, Edom. It says, by lying wonders, pretended miracles, and by severe censors, also by allowing no one to enjoy natural or civil rights. Talk about 60s and the civil rights. Your civil rights is going to be eradicated faster than the stroke of a pen, man. It says, who will not worship that beast, which is the image of the pagan beast. It is made a qualification for buying and selling. So you want to go inside the store and you want to purchase an item. Well, show us your mark. Scan your mark, please. Scan your right hand, please. It seems as if the sensor isn't picking up on your identification. Do you have a brain chip, or do you have a hand chip? Is it in the right or the left? And then you go and say, well, I don't have one. I'm sorry, you can't buy or sell here. They'll point to a sign. No purchase without incision. No purchase without chip. It's that simple. In this new system, it's that simple. In this technological advanced society, it's that simple. under the um, leadership of the of the devil. It says, as well as for places of profit and trust, that they oblige themselves to use all their interest, power, and endeavor to forward dominion of the beast, which is meant by receiving his mark. Forward his dominion by receiving his mark. That's it. Forward the dominion of the beast by receiving his mark. To make an image of the beast whose deadly wound was healed would be to give form and power to his worship, or to require obedience to his commands. Yeah, meaning you have to get implies getting the wound or the puncture or the stamp of the beast, the mark of the beast, which goes back into this 666, which is the universal barcode system that they created, leading up to bringing it all home. It's all commercial. It's all for trade. It's all to stop you from being a basic civilian with your normal needs of buying and selling. Those are your natural civil rights that they're going to disallow because you don't worship the beast. So everything going to change, man. You can't even, it's sometimes it's hard to imagine a drastic change like that. It's called normalcy bias, where you haven't seen anything change in a long time, or something that drastic doesn't seem possible. But here we are, man. Here we are in a system, in a society that promotes digital currencies as a norm. Here we are in a system, in a society that has normalized biohacking, biotechnology, cyborg isms, right? Man and machine interfaces. We're in a society that normalizes that. Sweden is the leading marked people, right? All Edomite system, a land, a country full of Edomites. They've chosen to already, begin to worship the image of the beast. They've chosen already to walk that path. Now they just gonna spread that to the rest of the world. And the Lord is holding this events for these end days, and then destruction comes. So it's not going to be ages and years of dealing with that. All right. And he calls all, Barnes notes on the Bible, he calls all, he claims jurisdiction in the matters here referred to over all classes of persons, and compels them to do his will. This is the second beast, and according to the interpretation given above, it relates to the papal power and to the claim. But the second beast is dealing with NATO and the EU, the second leg of the Roman Empire. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, so it says on the right side, says only object servile devotees of the cultists will stoop to that. It says to those who carried money. So you don't gonna have to carry money no more. You won't have to do that anymore. Going down, it says Jews are branded with in Third Maccabees 2:29 again, where the Alexandrian Jews are branded with the mark of Dionysus. Also on Galatians 6:17, it says, better still, to the religious custom of wearing a God's name as a talisman. You can look up that. It says the general sense of the prediction is that the faithful will be shut up to the alternative of starving. That's why there's going to be a famine. How about the man-made famine that comes along with those that don't take the mark and can't buy and sell? The Lord said, in the famine you shall eat. In famine you shall eat. Well, guess what? What brothers is recognizing and realizing through the spirit of Yahweh Shemel Shah is that the famine will definitely be man-made. And one of the man-made ways is not just EMP attack or blackout or you know taxing the drivers or a trucker shortage or a trucker rebellion of some sort where the food can't come in that way. These are very um, foreseeable ways that a famine is going to happen. But there's also a man-made famine, along with them burning down um, food production uh, houses and storages. But there's also going to be a man-made famine in the way that if you don't buy it, if you don't have a mark, you can't buy. What's going to happen to those? It's understood that this MOTB is going to cause a famine for those that don't take it. It says the general sense of the prediction is that the faithful will be shut up to the alternative of starving or coming forward to avow their prohibited faith. So subtly and diabolically does the cultist of the emperor pervade all social life. And that's going to be a cult. Talk about a cult, man. These people are going to have to vow to Satan by taking a mark, and was forced into it because the alternative would have been starving. You're going to be forced into the cult of Satan, man. Rich and poor, free and bond, small and great, all. Yeah, man, it's coming. So it's all about attacking your social life. And what do people love more than anything? It is as in the days of Noah, some were eating and drinking, giving into marriage and marrying, and right? It's all about party. It's all about entertainment. It's all about your social life. Well, for those that regard their social life, the scripture says that he that loves his life shall lose it. You're gonna go ahead and take that mark. It's gonna come with all type of social life perks. One of the main things that we used to teach was when the MOTB back in the early 2010s was there was a place called the Baja Club in Spain, and Baja Club allowed you to access the club only if you had an MOTB, a C-hip in your hand. They scan it and you would get free lifetime VIP access. Baja Club is back in like 2006 and up. So your social life, them prohibiting your social life, them attacking your social life is the main way in which they plan to brand you, plan to get you to come over and take it. Attacking your social life, your civil liberties, buying and selling things. You would have never thought somebody would deny you the that green dollar. Because all our life we've been learning. See, we've been even taught the old system. The new system don't go correlate with the old system. The old system is shit. If it's green, everybody speak green. Green is a universal language. Everybody speaks that dollar, that green dollar. Everybody love green. They might hate black, they might hate white, but they love green. Well, that ain't gonna suffice in this new world. Meaning that there ain't gonna be no exchange for that green. That green gonna be outdated. They gonna laugh at you. That green in the Weimar Republic, you gotta do your research to know these things. In the Weimar Republic, money was so devalued in the Weimar Germany that they would heap up those cash notes for fuel to fuel their fire in the winter. They have wheelbarrows of cash and take it to the store to buy bread. Same thing that happened in modern day Venezuela, and I think a few other South American countries is following suit. The inflation of the dollar bill is strategic. The inflation of these monies, this currency is strategic, and there's an all-out currency war going on right now. When you look at the BRICS nations, that's about currency wars. When you look at the deals backdoor being done with Saudi Arabia for oil, not using American dollars, and India not paying for their oil without American dollars, that's all currency wars right now. That's one of the largest wars. But it was all set up to bring in and usher in this mark. a new form of currency. They're going to do away with the dollar bill. You're going to see it in your lifetime. And it's all prophetic. So showing you that our heads is in the right place because our minds is on the scriptures. Things that was said before it happens. It says, free and bond, another method of still dividing the human race, embracing all, for all the dwellers upon the earth, either free or bond. These various forms of expression, therefore, are designed merely to denote in an emphatic manner universality. The idea is that in the matter referred to, none were exempt, either on account of their exalted rank or on account of their humble condition, either because they were so mighty as to be beyond control, or so mean and humble as to be beneath notice, as if this refers to the papacy. They keep bringing up the papacy because that's all they knew at that time. That's as far as his brain went. It must be the papacy. No, it's the rulership of in the empire of Esau Edom all over again. Yeah. So they praying on everybody this time around. It says to receive a mark in their right hands or in their forehead. Mark rendered charagma. Occurs in one place in the New Testament. All right, a graven, sculpture, sculpted work. Every time you type up mark, you're going to see something about engraving. Or you type in charagma, you see a cut, incision, to cut or stamp. And there's still Greek-speaking people in this world. There's a whole country called Greece. And when they say charagma, they talking about cut. Cut into your skin and leave a mark imprinted there, which is going to be able to help you buy and sell and help your life go the way it was going. You just going to be looking for some normalcy. Next thing you know, they're going to introduce this C-hip when the dollar crashes, and those that get it will be, comforted again in the fact that they can buy and sell and live some type of normalcy in their life. Those that don't get it will be threatened with the exclusion, where you can't, live your life as you normally would. And it all goes back to the custom of ownership. The word mark, it says, but the image is as there that of a brand put on slaves to identify them. This is what that is. You'll be identified with your mark. And the luxuries that come along with being a servant to the system, to the beast, a slave to the beast, the luxuries that come along with it is that you get to continue that normalcy of your life, so-called, which is not. You're not going to own anything. You're now a slave, though. But it's showing you that you was always a slave. If you got Ella's been saying it, if you got a social security number, if you got a, the when you were born, they gave you a birth certificate and you're a slave, your ownership, that social security number, that number tracks you everywhere you go. That number, you already had a number that tracks you everywhere, right? From what I believe, that number used to be part of the stock, so you could go and look it up, and it's all encoded in something called admiralty law and laws of the land and laws of the sea. I think this guy Jordan Maxwell goes into that a lot, how you just owned. And so this new form of branding, this mark, is going to be designated for all. It's going to be a universal mark, once again bringing in a new world order, Novus Order Seclorum. But also on the back of that dollar bill, it says a new coeptus, or enterprise crown of success. But it also say e pluribus unum, out of many one. It's to universalize the world, bringing all nations, all peoples together, all gods, all currencies together, all one. That's a pagan idea of how life should be lived. But they're doing it under the left-hand side. Yahweh Bashem Yahshua. Yahweh is sending Yahushua to do it on the right-hand side, because everybody's going to be under one vibration, but that's going to be under the righteous. This is just the wicked one. So you have to set a standard, and the standard must be set in your mind first, and where you believe. That's where your faculty to believe is at, your brain, your mind. to believe on the words written so that you can be, receive salvation from these wicked men who control the world. But the Lord sees it fit to give control back into his son's hand very soon. It says again in the so-called third book of Maccabees, which stupid as it is, has perhaps some. See, these people didn't believe in the scriptures, man. This guy in his commentary is going to say the third book of Maccabees, which stupid as it is. See, it wasn't allowed. They weren't allowed. The Lord didn't allow a lot of these commentary and these theologians to really believe. They have studied lexicons and time and events and ages, and they get really deep into certain things. But as far as believe, the fact that to believe, he didn't give it unto them, so they don't believe. It says where we are told that Ptolemy Philopator ordered the Jews of Alexandria to be branded with an ivy leaf. So this is in their nature to brand. The way they're gonna do it was with the modern day branding iron. All right, modern day branding iron is something that they use all the time, don't they? Always. Didn't the snake venom show you that they not scared to poke you? They ain't scared to poke you on a universal scale, poke everybody, because you got to get poked in order to get this stamp. In order to get this mark, you got to get marked. The mark denotes a physical poking. The charagma, word charagma, denotes a cut, also rendered graven, it says here. So you got to get sculpted, you got to get graven, you got to get poked, you got to get the needle up in you. That's going to drop off like a grain of rice, that little brand. Scannable brand. I mean, it's all here, man. It's all here, man. It's almost impossible. It's hard to believe that people can't see it. It says applied to people, it was used to denote some stamp or mark on their hand or elsewhere, as in the case of a servant on whose hand or arm the name of the master was impressed, or of a soldier on whom some mark was impressed denoting the company or the phalanx to which he belonged. It was no uncommon thing to mark slaves or soldiers in this way. So it's not uncommon. So let's take that not uncommon way of the ancient world and bring it back, because that's what they're doing. They bringing back that ancient way. See, the Lord already programmed Satan, the adversary, Esau, Edom, to do this when he gets in power, to brand the whole world, to control everyone. And the way he's going to do it, to have full control over everything and everyone, because he wants to sit up in the seat, throne of the Most High, saying that I am the Most High. So he wants full control over the world. He wants to dominate the world like Yahweh, the Father, does. He wants that ownership of everything that Yahweh said he owns. And so it's already embedded in this man's mind and brain to do this when he gets this technology, to search out this technology just to do this with. And we almost at the fulfillment of that. That's why nothing else, none of this other stuff matters, man. It don't matter if your team win. It don't matter. Your team got to get marked up. And guess what? And those who don't get the mark on your team, they ain't going to play no more. They ain't going to be able to buy it, sir. Everybody's going to be hit with this decision. That's why it says the Revelation, was it 3 and 10? Let me get it real quick. Everybody's going to be hit with this to make this decision. So this is Revelation 3 and 10. It says, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world. Because we read both all, small, bond, free and bond. And he calls of all. So all the world is going to have to do what? Take that C hit. I lost it that fast. Let me grab it back. All right, it say because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the world. That's the trial phase where they're going to say, stick your hand out, please, to receive your mark. No, you can't. You're not going to be able to use cash over here, but we got a chipping station right around the corner. Chipping station, what's that? Oh, well, it's just a new way of, stopping people from stealing your money. It also comes with $5,000 of 5,000 CBDC coin, a new house. It's all leased, so it don't matter. It's gonna come with its luxuries, man. They're gonna solve the homeless population problem. They chip them all. So it's coming, man, and it's gonna change the whole great scope of everything. And it says, "Which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth." So this is a trial, and if you fail the test, the Lord didn't keep you from the hour of temptation. You go ahead and lose that trial, and go ahead and get branded. It was no uncommon thing to mark slaves or soldiers in this way. The design was either to denote their ownership or rank, or to prevent their escaping so as not to be detected. It's crazy, but it's coming. It's coming. It says, yeah. hmm So these are more pictures of ancient world brands, ancient world branding and tattooing. Going back to this article, um, talking about the slave market, the empire. The people of the empire were divided into three categories: Roman citizens, free non-citizens, or slaves. So right now, they even had that division right now. You got your homeless, you got your rich, you got your poor, you got your free. It just show you all the different aspects of the people living in the empire, living in America. You got your business people, you got your laborers, day laborers, you got your incarcerated people, you got your free, so to speak, and you got your legal aliens, so to speak. Everybody going to have to get a mark. That's why they don't care about so-called legal aliens hopping the borders and whatnot coming from, because everybody going to have to get a mark anyway. You're going to get to move around how you want to, and if you chipped, uh, right? And the whole idea is that they're going to put you, you're going to have to go through hell if you don't get it. It says, some writers see also in allusion to the heathen custom of branding slaves and others who were devoted to the services of temples, and recall the fact that stigmata or cuttings such as are here mentioned were forbidden to the Jews. Yeah, Leviticus 19 to 28. So we never had the custom. That's the heathen custom. The only thing in scriptures talk about into is all, or certain men would get earrings and whatnot. But as far as cutting in markings, and it's definitely putting something under your skin, that's there's specifically a commandment not to do that in Revelations 14. Says most of us have seen such marks made on the hands or arms of sailors, in which by voluntary tattooing their names or the names of their vessels were written, or the figure of an anchor or some other device was in that indelibly made by punctures in the skin, or by inserting some kind of coloring matter. The thing which it is here said was engraven on the hand of or the forehead was the name of the beast or the number of his name. 13 and 17, Revelation. That is, the name or the number was so indelibly inscribed either on the hand or the forehead, as to show that he who bare it pertained to the beast and was subject to his authority, as a slave to his master or a soldier to his commander. So it's a sign, and it's a mark of distinction, right? Which is going to be necessary to show allegiance to the beast, and for doing that, he'll give you the ability to have your civil rights back to buy and sell. And for those that don't do it, you threaten with starvation. Yup. So all throughout the commentary, man, you see that they knew about branding. They knew about what it means to be a subject or a slave. Masters stamping their slaves. It was common knowledge and common activity for the man to walk around in the ancient world with a mark on his shoulder, right? Walking around normal, because you had slaves walking around just like you do now, slaves walking around. But they had marks on them showing you what house they belonged to. Yep. So this practice went all the way back to the ancient world, symbol of Bacchus, Antiochus Epiphanes, and so forth and so on. Alexandria, Ptolemies, and they were all doing it, especially Edomites. Mainly the history recorded where Esau is doing it, whether the Greeks or the Romans, showing you that these are the modern day Greeks and Romans all back again. What are they going to do? This is Second Maccabees 6 and 7. It says, on the month celebration of the king's birthday, the Jews were taken under bitter circumstance. Salaki. On the monthly celebration of the king's birthday, the Jews were taken under bitter constraint to partake of the sacrifices. So this is all force again. And when the feast of Dionysus came, they were compelled, meaning forced, to walk in the procession in honor of Dionysus, wearing wreaths of ivy. And now you might see a Jake woman or something rocking an ivy wreath, thinking it's cute. Goes back to our time when we was forced to do that. We ain't had no choice. At the suggestion of Ptolemy, a decree was issued to the neighboring Greek cities that they should adopt the same policy toward the Jews and make them partake of the sacrifices. So when one thing works for Esau in a foreign land, they're going to tell the rest of the Greeks in the different neighboring cities to do the same thing and take the same policy towards these people. This is how universal policies begin. And the beast system is just control over the whole world, basically through commerce and through force of the sword. Esau, Edom got the blessing of the sword, and to have the dew of the earth from heaven and the fatness of the earth. So he has rulership of the world, and the way he plans on condensing it or reforming it is by putting everybody in slavery under one global, universal digital commerce system known as New World Order. And so it was no different back then. Ptolemy noticed that this works, and you can get the Jews to do what you want them to do by force. And so let's do it to them now. These are them all back again. Once that first city gets C-hipped and the test runs and the trial runs might work in some ghetto somewhere where they testing out UBI, it might be in Miami, it might be in San Francisco or Oakland, it might be in Chicago. Once they already did the test run for the UBI in Chicago. So it says, at the suggestion of Ptolemy, a decree was issued to the neighboring Greeks. So Ptolemy got in the ears of some of the rest of the Greeks, and he all way out there in Africa, but he got in the ears of the rest of the Greeks neighboring cities, probably in Cyprus, and then he got in the ear of Antiochus over there in Jerusalem, and then it says that they should adopt the same policy toward the Jews and make them partake of the sacrifices, and should slay those who did not choose to change over the Greek customs. So that's Esau. You do what we say or you die. Well, good. That's how the Lord's going to set it up in that day, because the scriptures say, bring them hither that will not serve me, that I may slay them. So the Lord takes the same type of aggression towards dissenters when he returns, So Esau, he on the left hand side does the same thing in wickedness. Your policies are evil, man. No wonder people don't want to just go ahead and do them. Oh, right now they sanctioning the hell out of Uganda, because Uganda just created a anti-LGBT law. If you get put in jail or killed if you are a part of that community. And America saw it fit to deny them access to I don't know, help or aid, or just just stop them from commerce. See, that's another tactic of Esau. He don't have to just come and bomb you the hell out. He could just put a embargo on you, which, until you marked up, he can't do otherwise. All he can do is these secondhand tactics. But if he creates this system where you could hit the whole world, all you got to do is unplug you, turn your chip off, as Aaron Rockefeller, or Nick Rockefeller said. So it says that they should adopt the same policy toward the Jews and make them partakers of the sacrifices and should slay. So they want you to sell out, knowing that you have your own religion that establishes you and separates you from the Heavenly Father. They wanted the Jews to sell out by worshiping idols, heathen idols. And then the next step was to kill you if you didn't, right? This is how they thin the herd. This is how they figure out who's going to do what they say and who's going to stand up. This is how they discern between righteous men and wicked men that fall, faint when persecution comes. They faint, and men that are steadfast. And the Lord saw fit to do that. That's why he brought in our enemies to rule over us, and had men in the ancient world who stood up and stuck their neck out when they had the option, or they had the ability to worship idols, and they didn't. So they became a threat to the system, so to speak, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the three that didn't bow to Baal. I don't want to mix the stories up, but I believe they were thrown in the furnace, and the Lord was in there with them in the furnace and caused them not to be burned up. So the miracles is what's going to deliver us. We're going to get delivered out of America through miracles, not through some type of foreign exchange currency, not through living a normal age-old life, not through anything normal, anything. It's going to be magical, for lack of better words. It's going to be miraculous. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to cause amazement and awe and shock how the saints of the Lord is going to be delivered out of here through these vehicles that came from out of the outer realms of heaven, and they just expose themselves at one time to the world just to shoot lasers and beam up the elect. That's, words can't really describe what that looks like in real life, but we're going to go through it. Just as we had the Lord prevent the deaths of, Daniel in the lion's den, and so, right, in the Egypt, during the exodus of Egypt, the Lord, held back the waters and let us pass through on the waters, on dry land. These things is miracles that the Lord provides in very traumatic situations, such as what's going to face the earth. So we're going to have, you got to believe, man. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. You got to have faith of things you ain't never seen before to believe that they can happen. With Yahweh, nothing is impossible. It says one could see, it says, and should slay those who did not choose to change over the Greek customs. One could see, therefore, the misery that had come upon them. And that's exactly what they choose to do now in this day. Bring different various forms of trouble and suffering to those that don't convert over to the ways of, worshiping the beast by taking his mark in their hands on their forehead. It's all coming down to a time, man, where you're not going to recognize what life used to be. It ain't going to matter. The scripture says in a time of affliction, there's no remembrance of prosperity. So we're going to get afflicted, especially those that don't take the mark, because your normal life, livelihood, your lifestyle, is going to be altogether changed forever. Once you do not take that mark, it will be altogether changed forever. It will be on full reliance of the highest power. and the miracles that he gives. It's called divine providence. The Lord divinely interjects and delivers you and keeps you and stays you, kept from the mark of the beast, it says. Right. This is Third Maccabees 2:29. It says those who are registered are to, and this is CEB version. Those who are registered are to be branded on the body by fire with the ivy leaf sign of Dionysus and are to be assigned to their former limited civic status. Why don't we understand that Esau, this was Edomites who did this to us under the name of Greeks, branded our bodies with the symbols of their gods, their idols, and limited our status based upon if we served them or not, if we were good slaves or not. What's a good slave in this MOTB era? A good slave is one that takes his brand and his mark. All right. That gets all of the statuses of somebody that's a good slave. A bad slave don't take his mark, don't take no brand, will die without his brand. And they ain't gonna have to force. They're gonna mandate it, but they ain't gonna be forced because the other ulterior is to not be a part of their system. It says, but so as not to seem hateful to all, he added, but if any of them should prefer to join those who have been initiated into the mysteries, these are to enjoy political rights equal to the Alexandrians. So it's all about your civil rights or your natural rights, right? Things that you consider to be given to you at birth, natural rights. Like you got the natural right to breathe air, you got the natural right to drink water, you got the natural right to, right, as America put it, to be happy. What is it says in the Constitution, something like that, to be happy, to live and be happy or something. I forget how that go. But Esau is basically going to limit your natural rights and sell them back to you by a branding method, as he did in ancient Alexandria, Egypt. No different. Now, some Jews, while pretending to detest the steps to be undertaken for the city's religion, readily surrendered themselves to share in great fame through the association they would have with the king. So they readily surrendered themselves to share. And that goes back to the scripture about Moses. Would he rather suffer? He chose rather to suffer. Let me get that real quick. I know it's in Hebrews. This is the book of Hebrews 11:25. By faith, Moses. let me read up. Hebrews 11:24. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. So Moses would have had the same political rights and affiliation with the king as these men during the time of Alexandria, Egypt. But Moses refused it. It says, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of Yahweh than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. As opposed to Moses' sentiment, right? He rather suffer affliction with the people of Yahweh than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. And that's the idea that we have. That's the same sentiment that believers or the men that do not take the mark, the elect, will have, is we rather suffer affliction now and enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. All they can offer you is a season. How long did these Jews who got marked up and branded with the leaf of ivy leaf of Dionysus, how long did they get to enjoy these political equal rights with the Alexandrians and act like they was Greeks themselves? And how long did they get to hobnob, and rub shoulders with the elites of Alexandria before the Lord destroyed destroyed them by the Romans. Not long. Not long. So that's it. That's the idea. So I'm gonna leave it here for the sake of time. Lord willing, I'll make a part 2 or something. And Lord willing, this video was edifying as always. Call Allah Yim Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua, by Hashem Rakakwadash, double honor to the apostle elders, great millstone, who rule well over the flock. Shalom, salutation to you, Akim out here. So shalom to elect Akim Aqua, DTA, above the ball soon.